This episode is proudly supported by OpenTable.
Nearly 1/3 of diners are booking same day. So they're making those decisions on the spot. And 10% are making their bookings within just a few hours. And so it's why it's so important to have booking software like OpenTable, which allows your diners to discover you. And so when restaurants are on platforms like OpenTable, they're much more likely to be discovered. We help diners to connect to restaurants. Ultimately, having technology, using technology, helps you to reattach to those diners.
Experience the power of OpenTable. For an exclusive offer, visit restaurant.opentable.com.au/DITW.
I don't have a very close family at home, so I've got, a great team at work, and, it's where I come to be, with all my peeps. And obviously I still love the cooking side of things. I love the creativity, and look, at the end of the day, I love eating.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Change is something people think about a lot, yet taking the step often proves hard in many circumstances. But for those that walk through the door and make positive changes in their life, the rewards can be life-affirming. Zac Sykes is the head chef of Libertine in Brisbane. Zac, how are you?
I'm really good, thanks, Huck. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. It's good to get you on the show. You're back in Brisbane, where you grew up at one of the great restaurants in Brisbane. What's things like at Libertine?
Yeah, it's great. It's going through some changes now. So it's been, I took over beginning of January, and it's been fun. It's been a bit of a battle. We've had to build a new team, as well as do a menu change and just a lot of changes happening for moving forward to the future. So. Yeah.
You've cooked all sorts of cuisines through your career, which we can get into, but tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Libertine and some of the changes that you are making too.
So it's French Vietnamese. People think it's a bit of a strange combination, but with Vietnam being a French colony, it's not really too far of a stretch. So it's I'm having a bit of fun. It's not really a cuisine I've done before, but I love French food. I love Vietnamese food, and putting the two together was reasonably easy. I mean, we've got some fantastic produce up here, and it's very similar to to Southeast Asia, and it's look, I'm just having a bit of fun with some of the snacks and my take on, I guess, what French Vietnamese food is.
What's it been like? We all know the challenges of the last sort of couple of years, but sort of working on a restaurant now and changing it and changing the team, is it quite different to, say, before the pandemic, to that sort of role?
Look, mate, it's difficult regardless of the time. I mean, there's a massive shortage of skilled workers, obviously, but I've been really fortunate. I've got a fantastic team. The guys are excited to be here. They want to be here, and it's really refreshing. They get excited about the food. They get excited about the produce, and attitude is half the win. I mean, you can teach anybody to cook, I feel, but if you don't have the right attitude, it's just an uphill battle. So.
Tell us a little bit about your childhood. What sort of role did food play for you growing up?
Oh, there was no food in my childhood. Like I was a very picky eater as a kid. Not adventurous at all. I fell into the kitchen. I was expelled from 2 high schools before I finished year 10. Was a bit of a reprobate back then, and not much changed. Just got older. But I got a job as a kitchen hand at the Stafford Tavern, which is just in a suburb pub in Brisbane. Nothing exciting. Fell in love with the noise, the camaraderie, the banter, and then fortunately I was naturally talented, I guess, with the cooking side of things. And, some chefs noticed it, and they said, if you want to do something about this, you better go work somewhere good. And, so I moved from Brisbane to Sydney when I was 18, and yeah, discovered what the big bad world was like, you know. So,
What was Sydney like for you then at that age? Was it quite different to what you knew of Brisbane?
oh, mate, it was chalk and cheese. Like, it was the mid-90s. I was living on Darlinghurst Road, just in between King's Cross and Oxford Street. I was 18 years old. I was, living my best life. It was eye opening. Let's just say that.
Where did you work when you first landed in Sydney?
My first job in Sydney was Bistro Mars when Neil Perry opened up down at Rushcutters Bay there, and then I moved up to International, and then to Pier.
Do you have any stories of those times and working in kitchens and what it was like?
I remember one day in the kitchen in International. It was just before those massive hailstorms, and watching the storm roll in through the kitchen windows. That was pretty entertaining. Watching those cricket ball size hailstorms. That was, yeah. But as far as the kitchens go, like, it was very different back then. It was. You had to fight to keep your job. Now you've got to fight to keep staff. And it was, I found it difficult at times, but really rewarding as well. If I wanted to work on the fish section, I had to make sure all the pastry section was sorted. And, it made me push harder and work faster. And, it was, I loved it. I miss it and I loved it. But, I definitely think the industry's changing for the better. But it's missing some of its charm, I think.
Early on in your career, who were the sort of really important people that you worked with that sort of helped shape your career?
David Rayner was a massive influence because he introduced me to Greg Doyle when Greg did a little pop-up up at Barado's while I was working up there in Noosa. And he was the guy that just said, look, mate, you got to go work somewhere good. And I was like, yeah, all right, cool. And then, working with Greg was epic. And then I met Steve as well. And I worked with Steve for 8 years all up. So it was nearly 5 years at Pier and 3.5 at Fishface. So, it was the beginning of something that sort of shaped my career, I guess, and turned me into the fish cook I am now. So, yeah.
Steve Hodges has had an amazing impact on people, and I want to get into sort of what it was like working with him at the renowned Fishface, which was so amazing for Sydney at its time. Take us through some of those restaurants, and because you've had so many head chef roles, what's been the really important ones for you sort of through the 2000s?
Well, Fishface was my first head chef position, so that was... it was a big learning curve. I was pretty young then. I was only 24 or 25, I think. And, it was, we were doing, I guess, some of the best fish in the country out of a little hole in the wall. But, we treated that fish like it was royalty. The fish got the love, and it always has, and... always did, and it was always cooked perfectly. And look, people may have waited a little while, but they always got a good meal, So it was a tiny little kitchen that we got our asses kicked in it. So
the chefs that have come out of that kitchen have all gone on to have incredibly strong seafood games and an understanding of fish and fish cookery. What did you take from your time working with Stephen in that kitchen?
Look, I guess it was about, letting the fish speak for itself. It was more about the protein, and, the philosophy there was fish, vegetable and salt. So whether that salt was sea salt, an anchovy or olives or whatever, a little bit of vegetable and the protein. So that was sort of our philosophy there. And I guess I've continued on doing that, but my food's a little bit more involved. Look, there's still the foundations there of the basic fish cookery, and the fish is always going to be the star. But I just use some different flavours now, and I guess I've evolved as a chef as well. That was 20 years ago now. So, wow, saying that out loud hurts. But yeah, look, it was a great foundation, and regardless of my relationship with Steve now, it's he taught me a lot, and it was, you know, an amazing experience. So, yeah.
You've worked at so many good restaurants, from Omega to Capital Grill. I'm working with the Maryvale Group. What's the sort of really important venues for you that have helped shaped your cooking?
Well, Pier definitely, then Fish Face, obviously. Look, when I went to work for Maryvale, that was great because I got to meet some amazing chefs there. I got to work with Lauren Murdoch when I opened up Felix. And then, you know, I became really good friends with Jeremy Strode because I went and helped him out at CBD, and then went and worked over at the fish shop as well. So, you know, they were some pretty good... some excellent sort of meetings there, and then I also got to work with Peter Doyle as well up at Est later on before opening up Coogee Pavilion. So look, I've been really fortunate and worked with some amazing chefs and just taken away what I needed from them. You know, as I got older, I realised that you don't need to listen and learn to everything. Hang on, this sounds really bad, but, you know, when you're trying to develop your own style, your own skills, etc., it's you know, you don't need to do what everyone else is doing. You are allowed to be individual and, you know, try and do what you want to do and make yourself stand out. So I guess, you know, both Greg and Peter Doyle were amazing for that. Peter Canistis actually was really, really good too for that because he was, you know, not really one for boundaries, etc. So, yeah, I've had a really broad sort of range of experiences from different chefs from, you know, all over the country. So I guess I've taken the good from them and not the bad, but maybe some of the bad and not the good. But
well, there's some incredible chef alumni that you've rattled off there that you've worked for. You know, Lauren Murdoch, the late Jeremy Strode, Peter Canistis, the Doyle brothers. Do you have any stories of sort of how different they are as chefs to work with, and sort of what you did take from some of them?
I guess after seeing them all in magazines, and, you know, that was back in the day, pre you know, internet. So it was like, you know, you'd buy the Gourmet Traveller, you'd buy, you know, you'd wait every Monday night actually, and wait for the Good Living to come out. So, you know, you see these chefs in the pages, and you think, oh wow, you know, one day maybe, but then you meet them, and you just realise they're just real people. You know, they're just like you and I. They're just, you know, in the spotlight a little bit because they're very good at what they do. You know, so. You know, these guys were like, you know, they were legends. They still are legends in the industry. And then, you know, I went on to work for Matt Moran as well, and he was another fantastic boss / mentor. And he still to this day, I still speak to him. He's great. You know, we catch up when he's in town, and yeah. But I guess realize that they're just like you and I. You know, I sort of put them up on pedestals for a little while, and then. And realised that they were just real people, and everything they've done is achievable. And yeah, I don't know. You know.
Tell us about the move back to Brisbane. You know, you grew up there, but you spent a lot of time away from Brisbane. What lured you back to Brisbane?
Look, I think moving back to Brisbane was a combination of personal as well as professional. Obviously, my life was heading south very quickly. The move to Brisbane, I thought, was going to make a change. Look, it didn't. I just picked up my problems and moved them elsewhere. So, yeah, got to Brisbane, had a few more rock bottoms, and then sorted my shit out. So, I'm coming up to 4 years sober this month, which is, you know, pretty good. But so, look, it turns out alcohol wasn't the main problem. It was just a good coping mechanism. So, you know, the getting sober is just the first step. You know, still got to sort my head out. So,
change is such an important thing and such a challenging thing to do. You've sort of stepped through that door and confronted some of, you know, your own personal sort of issues. What's that journey been like, and you know, how do you push through that door and start to make change like you have?
Look, it was definitely the hardest thing I ever had to do. Taking that first step and, you know, realising you've got a problem and that, you know, you're the problem, not everybody else. But look, I gave up cooking. I stopped everything to concentrate on myself, and it was the only way. I basically made sure it was set up to succeed rather than, to give it any excuses. So stopped cooking, did the detox, rehab, AA, and then, did that, the 90 meetings in 90 days. So every day for 90 days I went to an AA meeting, and then, and then the gym, twice a day. And, it's pretty amazing how easy it is to fill a day off when you realise you don't have anything else to do. So, but it was a massive, look, it was pretty difficult, but extremely rewarding.
What sort of advice do you have for people sort of to go through, sort of push through that door and try to make change? Like, how do you approach it?
Look, I guess the biggest thing I had to do was stop lying to myself and others. That I did have a problem, and it was okay to admit it, and the fact it was also okay to ask for help. I always thought if I stopped cooking, I'd sort of lose the passion or lose the skill. But then I also realised if I didn't stop what I was doing as in cooking and just concentrate on myself, it wasn't going to work either. So I had to make that sacrifice to, and it was nearly 2 years where I didn't step in a kitchen. So I just really concentrated on myself and getting myself better.
Did you come back a different sort of cook and with a different approach to food?
I came back a better cook. I had a better palate. Had a better imagination. It scared the shit out of me going back into a kitchen because I didn't think I'd be able to have the creativity or, that flair, I guess. And I thought that was because of the alcohol and the drugs and whatnot, but it turns out that was there. It was just a confidence thing. So I definitely came back, and my first job was at Boom Boom Room, and Jake Nicholson got me into there, and he was the guy that sort of believed in me. And I did 2 years there, and we were cooking some incredible food there, and I honestly believe it's the best food I've ever cooked. So I came back, I guess, driven, a lot more passionate, a lot more thankful and grateful for everything that I've done. Regardless of the partying and the fuck ups, etc., I've still, come out a decent chef, and I'm pretty lucky to have that still. So
you mentioned a bit earlier, and a lot of people talk about it, how the industry's changed a lot and kitchens have changed a lot from sort of a decade or two ago. It's such a creative and high energy work that's very stressful as well. Is it hard to get that balance and look after yourself and look after staff, but maintaining that creativity and that sort of high pressure that's in that industry?
Oh yeah, look, I mean, it's always been a difficult job, but now it's even more difficult because everybody's different, and you're also a counsellor as well as a head chef, as well as a boss, as well as a friend, and so I guess with mental health being brought out into the open a lot more, it's it's definitely great because people are talking about their headspace, etc. And I think that's great, but at the same time, in typical Aussie style, people are taking the piss about it as well. So it's like COVID. I've got COVID. It's not really an excuse anymore. So I do agree that there's definitely changed for the better. The fact that the mental health is out there, a lot more out there. Sorry, in people's minds, and it's okay to, to let people know you've got problems, and, I don't know. Yeah, look, it's difficult to say. I don't really know how to word it, but yeah.
It's such a powerful and inspiring thing to see someone face their challenges and push through. And you said you came back a better cook as well and saw things differently. Do you run the kitchen a bit differently now? Tell us how you run a kitchen to get the best out of staff.
Oh, look, I'm still a bit of a clown. I like to have a joke. I don't want it to be a militant style where it's, yes chef, head chef, down, heads down, etc. I want the guys to enjoy being there. I get excited about produce, and I'll go around, I'll cook something up, and I'll like try this, taste this, or I'll bring something in that I picked up at the markets, and go, you guys ever seen this? And they're like, whoa, it's exciting to get people inspired. And that's what I was saying before, like that, with the right attitude, it's so easy to get people excited and, about the food. So I like to inspire people. I'm good. Look, we all have our moments, and it's a ridiculously high pressure job, and and you're striving for not for protection, for perfection, and look, and one thing I have learned is that my expectations can sometimes be unrealistic, but what I've had to learn is that not lower standards as such, but realise that I sort of sometimes sorry, sometimes I expect a little bit too much, and that's not anything to do with the chef. It's just because I want the best, and yeah.
The Brisbane culinary landscape, from the 1990s to what we see now, it's changed so much. You've experienced all of that. Tell us what's great about Brisbane and the culinary landscape and what you're loving and seeing at the moment.
Oh, look, the weather's fantastic up here, so there's a lot of outdoor dinings. The lunches on the river are great. Like where Otto is now, it's moved down to South Bank, and it's absolutely stunning sitting down there on the river. I mean, the river's not real pretty, being brown water and all, but I think the chefs have a lot of chefs have moved from down south and overseas, and realising that Brisbane's a pretty good lifestyle. People eat earlier. Generally, we're not in the restaurant past 10 o'clock most nights. So, it's nice early finishes. But it's sort of that balance there where people eat a lot earlier, so the kitchen opens at 5. So, but it's great. We've got some incredible produce up here. I'm buying a lot of stuff direct because all of the seafood that gets caught up in the Barrier Reef goes to Sydney first, then back up to Brisbane. So I just buy a lot of stuff direct now.
Tell us a bit about that. Who are some of the great producers that you have that direct contact with?
Well, I use, some farmers up here. Like there's a company called the Falls Farm. They're up in Mullaney. They do a lot of all their farms, all organic. They do a lot of the, but basically they're a very seasonal farm, and once it's not there, it's not available. So, at the moment they've got some amazing citrus and some finger lime, all the different Asian herbs, and starting to come into the citrus season. So getting some incredible stuff out of there. I've dealt with Chris Bolton quite a bit. He was, he's amazing. Like his passion is second to none. His product is incredible. Definitely some of the best seafood I've ever seen, and some of the best handled seafood as well. So it's really good. Basically building up a relationship with him. It was fantastic. So yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your food at the moment, and is there a dish or two you can tell us about at Libertine that's sort of speaking to what you're doing there?
Yeah, so I've introduced a little snack section to the menu. So we've got a little mini banh mi. So it's just basically a slice of crusty baguette with foie gras smeared on it, a bit of crispy pork belly that's been marinated, a little bit of soy and some chili, with a fermented chili mayo and some pickles on that. So that's just a mouthful. That's pretty epic. I'm doing a little French sort of style crab tartlet with some blue swimmer crab locally sourced, with a little celeriac custard and celery salt. So it's a bit on the French, it's a bit on the Vietnamese, and sometimes they meet in the middle. So
how did the gig come about with Libertine?
When I finished up at Boom Boom Room, I just put the feelers out there, and an old manager that I worked with mentioned that Libertine was looking for a chef, and Andrew Baturo and I got in touch with each other, and we had chats, and then all of a sudden I'm running his restaurant, so it was good. It was, but it was a good little chat. I was going to help out over Christmas beforehand, but I just wanted to have some time off after 2 solid years at Boom Boom, and just I just wanted to enjoy seeing the partner and her kids, and it was just nice to have some time off and not work over that silly season.
We've had Andrew on the show previously on Deep in the Weeds. What's he like to work with? Do you have any stories of the relationship that you have?
Yeah, look, Andrew's a great guy. He stamped his authority, pretty early on when I was late for the second time by a couple of minutes, and we both understood where we stand now. So I know he's big on punctuality. So, but in all fairness, he's a great guy to work with, very switched on. He's very honest, very, you have an honest conversation with him. If he says something, it's going to happen. So he's a great guy to work with.
Well, you're doing some amazing things there and creating some change as well for Libertine moving forward. What do you love about what you do?
Look, I still love the camaraderie, the just the banter in the kitchen. I love that sort of family sort of environment. It's it's good fun. It's a lot of people. I don't have a very close family at home, so I've got a great team at work, and it's where I come to be, with all my peeps, and obviously I still love the cooking side of things. I love the creativity, and look, at the end of the day, I love eating. So.
Don't we all? Well, Zac, it's an absolute honour to have you on Deep in the Weeds today, and congrats on the new gig, and look forward to seeing what you do there at Libertine over the year. Please keep in touch, and we'll catch up again soon.
Will do. Thanks very much, mate.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.